Hi guys, my name is Michael Evanoff, president of Midnight Pass Society 2, started with Scott Lewis over there. We've been going on for almost a year, not quite a year, but almost a year. We put this together, just try to get this back up and running. So we put a lot of work into it. It's all volunteer work, 100% volunteer work and stuff. We've made a lot of progress, but just to say, I am also a Siesta resident. I live on Siesta, south end near Turtle Beach. So I've been on Siesta, I live in Siesta Cove. I live in the village and now I'm all the way down south. So I'm also a local person. I've been here for about 25 years. I own Evie's and some other restaurants in town. So I'm very active here. Donating to about 200 different organizations locally as well. So I'm very out in the public a lot as well. So I'm just happy to be here. Happy to share Midnight Pass with you. We got Dominic Marino here, Scott Lewis, Mike Holderness, and I'm going to turn the microphone over to Ryan Christine, who's going to start the speech for us. Thank you.
Ryan, tell me when you want to change slides.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much again for your time. As Mike stated, my name is Ryan Christine. I serve on the board of Midnight Pass Society 2. And we're here tonight to talk to you about restoring Midnight Pass in order to bring back bay life. How many in here of you live on or near the bay? By show of hands.
Oh, it's dead.
A few. And how many have recently smelled a pretty unpleasant stench from the bay? Quite a few, right? So all of you are being impacted by this issue, and we feel strongly that restoring Midnight Pass is going to not only lead to a number of environmental, but economic benefits for our area and our communities. For those who are unaware of the history of Midnight Pass, it really started back with the Army Corps of Engineers. Midnight Pass was a hairpin pass that opened up to the Gulf that was created by diverging currents from a north and south channel. When the Army Corps of Engineers started to dredge for the Intracoastal waterway, those sand and spoils were kind of haphazardly placed around the area. We really no studies where they would migrate or end up going to. What we've learned from our research is the reason the pass became unstable and started to shift and migrate north is because of the closing of the North Channel. So when that channel started to close, the South Channel became unstable and continued to migrate north, where it approached two local homeowners' properties. Those homeowners, of course, went to the Board of County Commissioners and worked out a deal to temporarily relocate the pass, right? There was no intention to close the pass from the community or the Board of County Commissioners originally. The agreement was they were able to relocate the pass, temporarily close it, and relocate it to protect their properties. Now, the years following them closing the pass, they made a few haphazard attempts, really with no studies, engineering studies, hydraulic studies, environmental studies. And each time it failed. So they went back to the Board of County Commissioners, they threw their hands up, and after a few fines were exchanged, they were relinquished of their obligations to reopen that pass. Okay. So in our opinion, the pass was illegally closed. It was something that was created by man, and it's really falling on our community and man to correct this. Our organization is a resurgence of the previous Midnight Pass Society, who fought this battle for well over 30 years. And ultimately, they were unsuccessful. We have taken a deeper look at their efforts, and we've learned a lot about what could have been done differently, and maybe what could have helped them be more successful. And that's why we've created this new resurgence. As Mike said, it all started with a simple Facebook page. And we had the advantage of advanced technology that group did not have. Very quickly, we had gained 5,000 followers, and we realized that the community does still care about this issue, and we do very much still have support. Our latest efforts have involved working with some governmental agencies at the state and local level. As of recently, the Board of County Commissioners unanimously voted to move forward with issuing a report on the restoration and reopening of Midnight Pass. Jonathan Lewis was tasked with completing that report, which is supposed to be due in a few days, but we probably anticipate some delay due to the disaster of Hurricane Ian. We're closely monitoring the reports and the Board of County Commissioners' stance. We firmly believe that in order for this to happen, we need the county's support with the permitting process, We're working with consultants, environmental engineers, and we're trying to gain and raise awareness amongst the community. Now, how can you get involved? Our organization has really been a grassroots effort up to today. We are going to be having an event at EV Spanish Point coming up on November 13th, where we've asked all of our members to come if they want to get involved and sign up and learn how to volunteer. Our organization has structured a couple of subcommittees, one being with fundraising, another of our governance and our strategy, one for communication, and another for environmental and scientific studies. We're seeking volunteers from all backgrounds of the community to come and participate with those subcommittees and help us make action happen. Here are the slides that we have up here. We can go ahead and share some of the slideshows here. You can see the evolution of coming back to around 79.
73
Here in
first.
73, very clearly open. You can see the north channel here, which isn't as prevalent as it was in the years preceding.
There's 79.
Now, 79, we start to see the pass has migrated. You're actually facing south. So the pass is starting to shift north as you see the sand spoils here starting to close off this northern channel. Now it's completely closed. So you can see the old line where the pass used to be, the old Moat Marine tanks, and our two residents, Sid Solomon and Passwood Carter. So once that started to approach their property, is when they actually gained the board's approval. So this, this pass has been closed for 40 years. I don't think you need to be necessarily a scientist to go out there in that area and see that it wasn't what it once was. I'd like to just go ahead and open it up for some questions and answers. If there's any of our other board members who'd like to speak and say any pieces, but we're looking for your support. We're going to be posting some more information following our event November 13th about our efforts to move forward with our volunteers. And then closely monitoring the Board of County Commissioners report to see what their next steps and opinions are.
Question, you use the mic because prior Zoom, they can't hear what you use the mic. So,
Yes, sir.
I know that when Christian Ziegler brought this up at the County Commission meeting of September 13th, they voted to do the study, the staff assignment. He noted that even if the commission gets involved, it's still a Army Corps of Engineer decision. Is that correct?
There are actually multiple agencies involved, including the Army Corps of Engineers and FDEP. So our understanding is the coordination is that the county ultimately would need to be the applicant for the permits.
Who has the final decision? You know?
That's a great question. We do not know yet.
DEP. Army, we had a conversation with Army Corps of Engineers for about an hour, and they're quite aware of the situation. The head of Jacksonville Naval Air Station is it was actually head of Southwest Florida. He's quite aware of this whole fiasco that's been going on here.
use the mic.
You can't hear me?
No.
No, it's the people in Zoom.
Anyway, I'm sorry. We had an hour conversation with the Army Corps of Engineers. They were quite receptive to our conversations. There was we had a lot of suggestions. They gave us some suggestions, and they're willing to do what is required. However, they're only dealing with either passes and navigable areas, passes with dealing with commerce or with navigation.
Right.
And by that, they don't directly create the pass. They have to be ordered by the DEP. Yes. And requested for doing that. Now, the other thing also is we want to avoid doing any jetties out there. That's one of the main things that they said that would really hold us back, hold us up. So that's the reason why we want to go with the northern. If you can change the
Next one.
next there, not next one. Well, that's the one BMX. And it's the one that I asked you to put in there.
Okay, all the way at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our conceptual design. And historically, that northern channel was paramount to keeping this pass open. And I was reading some information about a month ago, and I want to let you know that some people trying to say that Midnight Pass, if it were open, Roberts Bay would be impacted greatly, and Philippi Creek, the spoils of the freshwater Philippi Creek would go up into Roberts Bay. That's not true, okay? Because when Midnight Pass was open, and when the both these channels were open, Philippi Creek poured south, and I can show that in diagrams. I'm showing it there in aerials, and it actually took a curve. You can see the darkness of the channel, and there was also another southern channel at Philippi Creek, and that's reason is that Midnight Pass is one of the largest and highest volume passes from here to Boca Grande, actually from Tampa Bay to Boca Grande. I don't know if anybody knew that. And that was one of the reasons why we really need to open that pass.
Scott, one thing to point out too is the pressure from Big Pass
Hydraulics.
to Venice.
Yes,
When you go from Big Pass to Venice, it's kind of like I don't know how to explain it, like a level, like a bubble in a level. It's where the pressure, it's where it wants to come out.
It is.
Midnight Pass.
We actually have no flushing.
Pressure, and it converges together, and that's what kept it open, and created the shoals.
Right.
And protected Turtle Beach.
And another question back here in the far back as well.
Hello, I'm Mark Smith, and I'm running the county commission, and one of my prime topics is getting Midnight Pass open. And for those of you who've been here long enough, old enough, I swam in that pass as a child, and the water's crystal clear.
Right.
The bay was tremendous, and I don't understand, quite frankly, how the health department closes down or gives a warning, Siesta Kingdom, and they say we've got fecal matter or something, and you can't even stand near the water where Evie's is down there. So to me, it's crazy. We should have the health department on this. It's nuts. Anyway, I just want to let you know, I'm going to do everything in my power to support this effort, providing I get elected. But also Joe Nunder, who's also running, is in favor of making this happen. So please support Joe also. But anyway, I congratulate you all on your efforts. God willing, we're going to open this pass.
You.
there's someone else in the back. Right.
Well, it's an easy question. When that other team that worked on it for so long failed, what makes you think that you can succeed?
Well, I think they took the wrong approach in the past, and it came down to something as simple as the phrasing. The original fight was open Midnight Pass, if you recall, right?
Right.
And that's really not a true description of what they were trying to do. We were trying to reopen Midnight Pass. When you fight the battle to open a pass, there's a lot more involved with the permitting process. There's actually, I believe, a law that you cannot just open a new pass in Florida. So our approach is to do what is accurate, which is restore the area, reopen the pass.
So they said reopen and they said let it flow.
Yep.
Remember all that.
It was very impressive.
There was also some political.
There was some political influence and factors as well. And then there was some legal failures as well. So we can only learn from those mistakes and take a different approach this time. And there's a lot of tailwinds that we have from.
We also have the internet now and social
That
media.
being one of them. Yep. Great question though.
I have a quick question / comment. And I'll just stand up because maybe they can hear me back there. One of the things, because you may all know, we worked on all the issues with passes and big pass, all the issues that we worry about water quality. And it seems like the timing is different right now too, because there's more, I mean, maybe that's what you're sensing too, that there's still more will to look at the fact that Florida is an economic driver. It's a good thing because we need the waters in order to be that. Nobody would come here otherwise. It'd just be too hot and sweaty. I mean, it wouldn't be the place that it is without the water all around our waters. And I think that's basically One of the things right now that nobody focused on before it was they were making a correction, like you did something wrong, now we're gonna fix it, and nobody wanted to admit they had to fix something. But this is about restoration and saying, hey, we got the message. That's what it seems like to me. Is that kind of what you're gathering as you speak to people?
It very much is. I think we could all say things like water quality will improve, environmental life will improve, seagrass may improve. But we have to be very strategic about how we approach this because there are requirements when you lead with that. So when you say you're going to improve water quality, there's a process for doing so, and there's studies that have to be completed, and there's a certain time involved with that. So while we can assume or would like to assume water quality will improve, it's not what we can lead with in trying to get this restoration completed. We need to truly stick to the message of restoring the area back to its natural status.
Growing up
Wait.
here, and I think Mark would probably agree, it was almost like Key West. The water was so clear, it was so pristine. And if you can imagine the clarity of water of Key West, that's what we had here. And it's a shame that it's gone. And when they turn on when we had a number of organizations that fought against this, and they fought tooth and nail, but it was also because there's some people in town that donated to these groups. Okay, I'm not gonna try and sit there and mention them, but they're heavily donated. So it became a political toss ball back and forth. And when rubber hit the road, there's a more political implications that literally shut the old case off. It literally shut them down. It was more political than anything else. And they also called it a whole new ecosystem. The people that were against it. And this is their ecosystem. Those are Lady mats.
Right,
Okay. They won't go away.
Nope.
They'll just sink to the bottom
that's right.
and come back up. The only way you can get them out is if you vacuum them off the
Right,
bottom.
you have to rake them off and gather them up into
And then
bags.
they
and-
release high nitrogen, and
absolutely.
they're also toxic. I wouldn't let my dog, but I wouldn't let
No.
certainly wouldn't let any children if I had any, but wouldn't have any children, but I wouldn't let my dog swim in that water.
Yeah.
There's a little Sarasota Bay in Blackburn area.
I've lived here since 1969. My name is Victoria Varela, and I remember those pristine waters you're talking about. I think this isn't a Siesta Key problem as much as Sarasota needs to know
Oh, sure.
what's happened to the bay. The bay does not look anything like it used to. And I think that is something that I needed to be more educated on. I'm learning that this has affected the bay, that this particular pass has affected the bay greatly. And almost like it's slowly dying off because it isn't a pass. I think that education is so important to the people in this county. And I'll volunteer to help you any way I can.
Get on our website, get on our website, get on our Facebook page, and put your name in. Donate if you can, because we are really sucking air as far as donations. I have to say that.
We have been working with a couple of local news and media agencies, so we have some reports that have been, we've been filming with them and doing documentaries with them over the past couple of weeks, so those should be coming out soon.
I got one back here, John. Greg,
Hi, my name is Greg Anderson, and I grew up here. I remember me and my buddies, we were like, maybe the first people to ski all the way around Siesta Key. That was like, oh, come on, man, we're gonna ski all the way around. And I remember swimming and playing in that area. And I have to tell you about, a month or two ago, my wife and I hopped on our boat, and I grew up with a boat here. And we came down, and we were gonna go into Midnight Pass.
could do it.
And it was so disgusting, all that shit in the water.
It's a new ecosystem.
Well, and that's the way they promoted it back then. Oh, no, it's gonna be a new ecosystem. So when you said that, it's like, resignating. Yeah, I remember that phrase. And, now with not only the internet, but you guys got these pictures, and photos, this is gonna be a much better presentation than it was back in the day. Plus, we don't have those political stymies anymore. But there's a big push, and Gene's been really involved in this, in the cleaning up the waterways. And North Sarasota Bay, I mean, look at all the studies, the national attention that's got, they put fish in there, they put clams in there, they put seagrasses. You know, and that's just up the waterway to peace.
You know,
And so-
all the bays flow together, they impact each other.
Exactly.
So a little, if they didn't try to keep that bays clean, it would still, the poison would still bleed out.
Right.
There's no, there's fresh water between, Sticky Point Road and and Blackburn Point Road. That, all that does is just expand and contract, and all you do is have fresh water rolling in.
Yeah.
Right.
And just the fresh water bleeds out. And there's no salinity in that water, in my opinion, and I think they've tested a few times, but I don't trust some of the tests. I think we really need to get our own specialists and get some additional testing.
And one other thing to answer William's question, KCQ is obviously very against reopening the
Right.
pass. And that was
Some people
big-
on North End.
the north end of that key.
Use the microphone.
I think I'd like to discuss your previous question. KCQ is very against reopening the pass, you know, from once it closed, the ecosystem and the water was so beautiful down there. But as we're all seeing, and they're seeing too, you know, there is a west wind, they're smelling it too, KCQ, it stinks. At the restaurant, we got the health department call about 15 to 20 times a year with the smell standards are septic. And at that time, they have to do a 2-hour health inspection of the whole place. And we have told Board of County Commissioners this many times, and I'm not the only one. Jimmy from KCK and many other locations on this bay face the same thing, as we all do. And every homeowner faces the same thing with the smell. And it's awful if you're in the wind,
Right.
if it's blowing up at you or at each way. So if you're on KCK, they're getting the same thing. We've talked to many KCK residents, and their tune has changed. A lot of those older people have left or gone on or whatnot. So there's a lot of new people out there, and they want to see the bay change as well. So I think that's a big factor of what could be different this time as well.
Mike, why would they object?
Well, they may, why would they?
Why did they?
Why did they?
So when the old project, we looked into it, as jetties and it was a big cut through. If you look at Venice Beach, Army Corps and the jetties, so they're responsible for the constant nourishment south of the
South,
jetty.
they screwed it up.
So if you were to put a big giant Venice jetty here, then you'd probably have erosion in North KCP, but in this case, we're restoring it back to the natural barrier, which would be
No jetty.
that delta and the shoals that come out, which further protects the islands.
Are there any people who like the idea of the two keys being connected?
I thought KCK is South Siesta Key, isn't it?
They don't like it because people want to move.
Right, see, I would think they would,
That's the old, these are the old islands. By the way, if you notice, there's a lot of white sand out there. I'm not gonna say anything else about that. But we also had 100-foot of beach all the way down when I was growing up, right, Mark?
Yeah.
Had 100-foot of beach all the way up to, all the way up to the sand dune.
Yeah.
And there was never an issue. When this closed off,
Bam.
gone.
do you ever hear people saying this is a voter's dream more than anything else?
A few times. It was brought up many times back in the 80s when they were actually fighting for it. And that's just fallacy. It's not. If it is, then so be it. But you know what? I prefer the fresh water and cleaner water than worry about the damn boat.
We've discussed this with the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers. This is not about opening up for boats. This is about opening up fresh water. Mother Nature brings it back to a 20-foot deep pass, so be it. But I don't think it was ever that deep. back in the day.
It was deep at WI.
There is one added benefit to boats, and that's for medical emergencies that we've discussed, because if you're in that situation in the Gulf between the two passes.
Takes an hour.
There's
Go one way
quite a
or
bit
the
of a commute to
Yeah.
get back in.
We've been told, do not bring it up as a navigational impact either way from Army Corps of Engineers. This is not what it's about, so.
Yep.
Have you, gents, spent any money on any engineering from your donations yet?
We spent about 30,000 with a local engineer that used to work with the county. We spent probably about 25 to 30,000 with Weishi Lin. He used to work for the Sarasota County.
Yeah.
He actually was on the county side when he worked for the county. He did all the work for Midnight Pass, so he pretty much has all that data that from back in the day. So we've got a pretty good head start on that as well. I'd say we probably spent about 50,000 to date. I do keep the books, so P&L is available anytime for anybody to see. Keep that open. Happy to share that. It is, like we said, no paid people on board and so forth. So
And one thing also about this is that this is a legacy project. This is for the children, it's for your grandchildren, it's for the people in the future. If we get this open, I just can't, can you imagine what these days would be like if they're open? I don't have any children, I don't have anything in the game here, why am I doing this? It's because I remember, okay, and I'm trying to share that strength and experience of what I remember. You know, Mark, it's for your children, it's for your grandchildren. Okay, this is why you have to get involved, because if we wouldn't do to wait another 30 years, the time's right now, as far as I'm concerned.
So to kind of wrap this up with next steps and what folks can do to get involved, we do have our meeting on November the 13th, which is a Sunday at East Spanish Point. And we're also looking to put together some events that will be occurring next year, such as a golf tournament, a fishing tournament, and some other grassroots fundraising events. So please join our website, and thank you again very much for your time, and special thank you to SKA.
Ryan and Scott, if you would please send your website to us so we can make sure we post it.
Go to first vote.
Okay.
You're already past that.
Yeah, I'll get it. And then second, I'd like to have your events so we can also post those. So that would be great. And then I want to mention to you those mats, those linguini mats, whatever you want to call the word. I run into them. We install the mini reefs, and I run into them, and we found some ways to get rid of it. But like you said, we're raking the bottom to get them off and bagging it and getting it out. It's the only way we can do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Before anybody thinks we're done, I want to just get a show of hands of people that feel right now that you have learned enough at this moment from what you knew before and what you just heard to say that you would support this effort. Raise your hand.
Support and volunteer.
Support however you can, absolutely. Thank you. That gives us a good barometer. Thank you. And I'm glad you all can leave with that. It is.
Who says no?
Thank you.
Come on.
If you have any additional questions, you can put them in the chat room on Zoom or send them to us and we'll get them out so we can get some answers to them. Okay, thank you all.